Welcome to this behind-the-scenes short documentary for the show AirPlay, brought to you from New York City with the apartment of Seth and Christina Gelsone of the Acro Bufos. For the last 15 years, their career as clowns has taken them to many places around the world. The red pins on this map are everywhere they've performed together. Their specialty is silent comedy. With no words, they make laughter in every language, in circuses, in theaters, and on streets around the world. So here to tell you all about AirPlay and how they got started are Christina and Seth. Much better. I'm Seth.
And I'm Christina.
And we're at home in New York City.
We are the performers and the creators of AirPlay.
AirPlay's been all over the world. In fact, it's been to 5 continents. See those lonely planets? We've been to all of those countries, and AirPlay has been to many of them.
Today we're going to tell you about what goes on behind the scenes and even how we made the show, and also a bit of what we're thinking about while we're on stage performing the show.
We want you to take a look at our trailer for AirPlay, just in case you haven't seen the show. And if you have seen AirPlay, the trailer will remind you of some of the best parts. So we'll see you right after that. Oh, we're back. It's over.
I so want to see that show.
You're in that show.
Oh, I'll never see that show.
That's the problem with performing in a show like AirPlay. You never get to see it. But how did we make AirPlay?
Well, we didn't know AirPlay was going to be AirPlay when we started. We were working with an air sculptor named Daniel Wurtzel from Brooklyn. Wait a minute.
I think you're getting ahead of yourself.
Way ahead of it. Okay, first, let's tell them who we are.
Well, I'm Seth.
I'm Christina.
And our company is Acro Bufos.
Acrobatic bouffons.
You'll understand that better. Maybe we should give them a tour of the mystery room.
The mystery room?
Yeah, where we keep all of our props.
Do you want to see the mystery room?
Let's do it. Come on, Christina, let's go.
Oh, as we're going there, I'm going to show you our spectacular wall calendar. These are all the places we started at. January, we were in Vietnam, and then Australia, and then Sri Lanka, and then we came home, and now we're with you. Okay, mystery room, mystery room. Welcome. This is kind of everything. So, I had 2 shelves of Afghanistan books. Seth and I met in Afghanistan.
Why were we in Afghanistan? Well, I was doing a circus project. I wasn't there because of the military, and Christina was performing in refugee camps. It's kind of strange 2 clowns meet in Afghanistan.
Seth was there probably every year for 7 years, and I was there 5 or 6 times. Then we started performing together, and we made our first show. Which was called Acro Bufos, which is now our company name. And Acro Bufos lives down here in this suitcase. We performed this all over the world, on streets, at festivals, and then ultimately in the circus. And it was fantastic. Oh, when people are surrounding you and you have laughs coming from every side. Oh my goodness. I really miss that show, but now I'm getting a little older and it's difficult to bounce on my butt. Let's see. Oh, here's another show. This one's Cafe Goma. This one is a beautiful show. But that was cool. Seth made all the masks for that. And then this little suitcase has been on every continent in the world. That is our spectacular water bombs, where we get two guys to throw water balloons at each other.
One suitcase, one backpack, we can entertain 1,000 people. It's incredible.
1, 2, 3!
Suitcase creates so much laughter. And then up here, this is costumes for AirPlay. It comes all over the world with us. And then this is balloons for AirPlay. This comes all over the world with us.
The amazing thing about all these shows is that we do them without words, which means we can travel all over the world. The cool part is that they all fit in suitcases, but when it came to AirPlay, we ended up having 3 pallets of equipment.
We have 2 sets because there are 2 kinds of electricity all over the world.
They all get stored in our basement. That's 1 ton of equipment.
And this is where we fit. We both share one tiny suitcase for our own clothes. It's been a lot, but it's been so much fun and so much laughter. That's our mystery room.
We're back. Welcome to the office. So, Christina and I knew we wanted to make a show for theaters in about 2010 and started searching around for ideas. And we ended up meeting this sculptor, Daniel Wurtzel. You can see his work right here. Pas de deux. He's actually a kinetic sculptor. We like to call him an air sculptor. So we called him up in 2010 and said, hey, do you think you want to work with a couple of clowns to make a show? The cool part about Daniel Wurtzel is one of his mentors is someone named Gucci. He's a sculptor. He used to work with Martha Graham, and in New York there's a tradition of lots of different art forms working together. So Daniel was really open to the idea. But a show like AirPlay, because you have to invent everything, just doesn't come about quickly. But what I remember is I called you and said, hey, we're clowns, we'd like to work with you. And you were like, clowns? Is that right?
That might be right, clowns. I was like, I didn't know what to make of it. I was like, okay, I'm willing, I'm open. Let's see what comes of this, and you know, take it from there. It turns out clowns are some of my favorite people.
Turns out air sculptors are some of my favorite people.
That's nice.
Actually, we want to tell you about how we created one of the acts in our show, kites, and how that went from a very small idea to a giant, big idea that goes out over the audience.
And we took about 4 years, I think, to develop this idea. When we started, we wanted to have an act that had us going out and over into the audience. And I knew that if we were going to play in big theaters, I wanted the people who were up in the mezzanine to feel like they were right there in the show and could touch it.
So one day in the studio, back in 2011 when we first started, we had some string and one of these like plastic bags they give you in New York when you go to a convenience store. And Christina was like, hey, what if we attach this to a string and fly it like a kite? but actually use the fans that we use in pas de deux, turn them face the audience, and see if we can fly that over the audience.
We spent days flying plastic bags.
Different size plastic bags. The ones with the smiley faces flew the best.
That was my preference. But then we tried lots of other things. We tried little parachute men.
One of my big ideas was to see if we get 100 parachute men to fly it over the audience and all open up and come down on them. We tried that for days. It never worked. Then one day we went to Party City and we were like, hey, let's get some cellophane and fly it long, like a long kite, instead of using a plastic bag like this.
And it was kind of like the color, you could get it in different colors, which we thought was nice. So we had to practice flying that.
And then between like 2012 and 2014, we developed that act with strings
Right,
and
but we
cellophane.
were facing each other first.
And then we thought, could we get it to go out over the audience?
Right, so we finally got that to work.
But then Daniel Wurtzel came and he saw a showing of us do this in 2014 in a theater in New York called the New Victory Theater. And he's like, guys, I just don't think the cellophane looks that good.
Yeah.
Why don't you use the fabrics from pas de deux, turn the fans to the audience and blow them out? And we're like, we just don't think it's strong enough.
We're like,
and he said,
the fabrics are really big and they're kind of heavy.
He said, come down to my studio, I've got these new fans and I've got these new ideas.
Oh, that's right, he had new fans. That's right.
Change the entire act.
Oh my goodness.
The crazy part is it looks pretty easy to fly the kites,
Right.
but we always go to theaters and the tech crew sits around and is like, oh, I think I could do that. So we always hand it off to one of them. It's actually quite difficult to fly a kite in a theater. And every theater has different air currents.
Every theater has a different pattern of air and the way it swoops upwards or swoops downwards. And then when the audience gets into the theater, it changes the game again. And sometimes our balloons a little go out of control because the audience is so hot that it has changed the air circulation inside the building. So before every show, we have to do fan tests. And the kite is one of the big fan tests that we have to do.
Just like packing a parachute, if Christina doesn't pack her kite right, it comes out and it gets tangled, then the act gets destroyed. Anyway, that's a short peek into how an act goes from like the seed of an idea and over 5 years becomes a beautiful part of our show, one that the audiences really like.
You know, I find that my work sits at an intersection of dance and theater and circus and art and, you know, so many other special events, that it's been sort of an amazing thing.
One of the things that we got so excited about seeing your work with air was that we come from a circus background, and we're like, hey, we want to make a show that involves a lot of things in the circus, but we're not trapeze artists, we don't fly in the air.
Right.
And we wanted to create the poetry in a show that an aerialist, someone flying on a trapeze, hanging off a silk, juggling, basically defying gravity, and combine it traditionally with clowning, because we're clowns.
Right.
And we thought your work would be a perfect combination. So we always say that in AirPlay now there's a secret circus if you know what to look for. There's juggling, there's aerials, it's mostly done by materials as opposed to people.
So I feel lucky that we got to really play with your concept in its purity, the same way you do as a sculptor, like what's the very base of the element, because I wasn't tied to a plot, or I wasn't tied to someone else's perspective and they just need your thing as a special effect. It was like the whole show,
Right.
the whole thing was how your work plays with humans.
We want to take you deep into one of the acts in the show. We call it White Fabric, or it's nicknamed Moby, after the great white whale, and explain the combination of our work with Daniel Wurtzel. It's the culmination of the show, and it probably best essentializes what AirPlay is.
This act is primarily mine, especially at the beginning, and every time before I open this suitcase, I am making a big hope that it flies today. Oh, I'm so terrified. Here we go. The fans come on. I wait for it to be able to pick up the weight of the fabric, and then I launch it.
I'm sitting on the suitcase, watching Christina, and watching her try to untangle this. When we were in rehearsals for this act, it took her 7 minutes at the beginning to get this untangled. Now she can do it in about 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and if she doesn't do it, it eats her.
Oh, it's a ripe mess. I think we filmed this in Melbourne. We had a lot of difficulty with the air swirling. Oof, looks like I'm gonna get it. Oh my god, this act terrifies me. Here we go, I'm looking for the 2 corners. I need to grab 2 consecutive corners.
I see that she's got it, and now I see that she's having a little bit of trouble. The fabric's gotten twisted. She's gonna save it. And...
Okay, Seth, okay.
she saves it.
Oh, here we go. Seth takes those 2 corners from me, and now, almost blind, I have to grab the next 2 corners. I get one and not the other.
What's going to happen here?
Our mind is racing. We are working at the top of our juggling skills, and the audience has no idea. For them, it's beautiful to get to watch.
Now we're thinking we've got all 4 corners. How can we get that centered and then come down upon us at the end of the music so the music and the fabric end on top of us at the same time?
And if we've timed this perfectly, I am now taking a huge breath of relief because the most difficult part of the whole show is now over for me. The next part is difficult as well, but is a lot more fun.
Here we have the back sets of fans on so the fabric blows out towards the audience. Our original idea, just as in with kites, was to have this white fabric go all the way out over the audience. But to do that, we had to put 22 fans across the front of the stage. Then you couldn't see us. So now the fabric hangs there beautifully, and people tell us to see all sorts of things in it. Whales, turtles, octopus.
Yeah, it's magical the way the human mind puts emotion into what's purely physics, really. Oh, we are watching each other like a hawk right now. We have to make sure we time this so that we turn exactly when the weight is at the height. This turn can put an awful twist into our fabric, and we have to be careful about where the ends eventually fall.
One other part about this act is that fabric goes up at almost 45 feet.
It's 10 meters by 10 meters.
So we have to hang our lights at about 40 to 45 feet in the air. And to do that, we had to invent a whole new way of focusing lights. Some theaters are just too short.
Yeah, we can only perform this in very large theaters. There we go. We catch our last 2 corners.
And now, I finally breathe a sigh of relief too.
Except his most difficult part is just about to arrive. Here he is trying to get his corners perfectly placed in his hands.
Here we run around in a circle, and I just think about this being on a playground like a kid, having fun with one of my best friends.
And then just like a kid, I decide to make it harder. We're trying to get the most breath of air underneath that we can, and then I let go of my 2 ends.
And I try to keep the fabric centered in the column of air so I can let go of my other hand and just hold it with one so the fabric goes as high as possible. And then
I love that part, Seth.
we can collapse the whole piece of fabric right back into the suitcase.
This is a perfect act. It comes out of the suitcase, it goes back into the suitcase. It's a beautiful melding of Daniel's work and our work. Oh, it's so hard to get the fabric back in there.
This is the one moment in the show where we slow down enough that we can actually look at each other.
We are watching each other like hawks. We are very much aware of each other throughout the entire show, but this is the first time we look into each other's eyes.
Now we come down towards the front of the stage to resolve the show. There's about 5 minutes left. We're almost at the end.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
If you want to find out more about us and our company Acrobufos, you can easily find us at acrobufos.com.
And if you want to check us out on Facebook or on Instagram, we post there. If you want to write to us, you're more than welcome. You can send it by mail or email.
Or even a carrier pigeon. If you have any other questions, please do send us an email. We'll be happy to get back to you and tell you anything else you want to know about us.
Thanks for staying with us, and have a great day.
See you in the theater someday.